good morning everybody, and what a spectacular way to begin the African dawn. An enormous elephant bull just having a drink after a long night, no doubt, of feeding through the area. The sun has yet to peep up over the horizon, and you are on a live safari here in the northeast corner of South Africa, at the southern end of the great African continent of legend. And more legends have been created and written about this continent through animals like this great big elephant bull in front of us, possibly than through any other animal. You are most welcome. You are on a live safari, like I say. Please talk to us throughout the course of the next 3 hours. Hashtag Safari Live or questions@wildearth.tv if you happen to be on the email. My name is James Hendry. That's not actually me looking at you right now. That is an elephant bull. And behind me, behind you on the camera, is David E. Storr. Yes, that is really his name. And on the other vehicle, Samuel Chevalier. He's being filmed by Bryan, who turned 30 years old today at 4:16. That's at 04:16. He turned 30, and unfortunately Sam's battery has run down. I'm not being figurative there, that is literal. He'll be out a little bit later. In the final control, we have Rebecca's fairly dulcet tones in my right ear, and tapping away on the keys, receiving your questions, everyone, is Kirsten McLennan-Smith. That's the team for the morning, and we, of course, are all pale to insignificance when faced with the magnificence of this great big bull in front of us. 6 tons he is, 6,000 kilograms, 13,000 pounds. In fact, even more than that, probably 14,000 pounds. He's probably a 30-year-old bull, just the same age as Bryan, but he's even bigger than Bryan, believe it or not. He probably stands just over 10 feet at the shoulder. You can see the dullness, not dullness, but dimness of the dawn light there. And you may even be able to hear him breathing out. And he's listening to my voice, there's no question. Just having the odd drink, and then opens his ears to listen. There we go. And he's very cleverly, of course, sucking water out of the pipe that fills this pan. So he doesn't want the buffalo and terrapin poop infused soup that is the actual pan. He's sucking the very clean water through the borehole pipe
Bryan,
there. It's very clever of him. In the background, the dawn chorus is just beginning. The orchestra is tuning up, and no doubt as the sun peeps up over the horizon, a sound akin to Beethoven's Ode to Joy will explode forth over the Lowveld. And it is just a wonderful feeling to experience that every single day. The flies have also managed to get up quite early, and David and I were attacked early on by a very large wasp. I say attacked, I mean it landed on my face, and thankfully I missed slapping it because I fear it would have stung me severely. But it has flown off, but there are 1 or 2 flies about. There you can hear, maybe you can hear now the sound of the dawn chorus starting to build. The doves, the red-billed buffalo weavers, the starlings, quack, 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 quack. The oriole in the background like a clarinet. And the hornbills too, like a little trumpet chorus. Isn't it a wonderful sound? The most peaceful thing in the world to sit and listen to. good morning to you, William, in Oregon. Well, it's not morning for you, of course. In Oregon, it is late evening, I imagine. And I hope you're having a good evening. In Oregon, you want to know how many miles we'll drive on this safari. Well, William, for example, if this elephant was to stay here and then perhaps some buffalo came down and maybe some nyala and impala came to have a drink and then the sun popped up just over the trees, we could sit here for the entire 3 hours and quite comfortably entertain ourselves with the nature that would unfold around us. By the same token, if we hear that perhaps there are wild dogs on cheetah plains or another leopard on cheetah plains, well, that's about, let's say 10 miles away. We could easily drive that 10 miles, drive around there for a while and end up back here having driven 20 to 25 miles. So that would be a very long drive, but yes, it could be anything from 0 up to 25 miles. I have spent entire game drives, entire safaris on quarantine clearings. And we've had lions there, or we've had wild dogs and they've killed around there. He's scratching his eye, just like you would in the morning. That's an interesting behavior, what he's doing there, that flopping the trunk over the tusks is often indicative of a state of must. Now, when I came down here, David and I both thought we could smell the smell of must. Now, what that means, of course, is that the elephant, this is interesting, is dripping from his, well, he's kind of dripping this evil-smelling, sticky green urine. It's not that evil-smelling, it's very sickly sweet, though. But except we can't see any between his back legs, so I'm not sure what that was. But he definitely is giving off the impression of being in must by flopping the trunk over the tusks like that, by his sort of streaming between the eyes and the ears. There's a temporal gland which indicates some kind of stress, and elephants that are in must often stream like that because the testosterone levels in their bodies are so high, and it makes them feel tense. He's certainly not showing any signs of aggression, and that's important. But a lot of people will tell you, oh, an elephant bull, don't go near him when he's in must. He's very aggressive. Elephants in must are much more violent and aggressive than they would be normally. And that is not always the case at all. And no animal out here, remember this, is overtly aggressive, is inherently aggressive. Hello, Gilly in Wisconsin. I don't know how many of you have seen what Gilly is referring to, but she was referring to a video from not last night, the night before, with a red dot that appeared on the Juma Dam cam feed, and it looked like a red spotlight shining around the place. And, well, theories have ranged from alien landings to poachers in the area, and obviously some very concerned people. What we figured out, Gilly, and it's interesting, is that it was an insect that was on the red infrared light. And the insect was reflecting. If you watch it carefully, you can see the movement is very indicative of an insect, and you can actually see an antenna on the red dot. And so the insect was on the red light of the infrared part of the camera, and that reflected it back into the light, obviously, and looked like someone was shining a red light around the place. So that's what we think it was. Yeah, you can hear the doves really starting to give it stick now. They're the sort of mainstay of the orchestra out here, the string section. Hello, Gail in Canada. You're interested in the size of that elephant's heart. Gail, an elephant's heart apparently weighs between 12 and 21 kilograms. So that's about 46 pounds, which is pretty large, really. but proportionately I think it's smaller than a giraffe's heart. Proportionately. It's not absolutely, but it is proportionately smaller. Oh, he's a wonderful fellow, this. One of the reasons he looks so comfortable, of course, is because oh, look at that. Is because it is so comfortable out here. The temperature is 21 degrees Celsius, 69 degrees Fahrenheit, so it really is perfect. Now, if he would just very kindly stand about 3 feet forward from where he is now, we might be able to see the sun come up just behind him. All the way from just near Durban in KwaZulu-Natal, we have Peter. And Peter, you're interested... Oh dear. Oh dear, David. We seem to have a small problem starting the vehicle. Oh, there we go. Never mind. Peter, you're interested in whether the must period that this elephant experiences now will end when he mates. No, it won't. I don't think it has anything to do with whether when he mates or not. It just seems to, once his testosterone levels go down, so his must will disappear. And it's got very little to do with whether he mates or not. There, he's now starting to drip from between his back legs. Just going to move up next to him. He's a really wonderful fellow. Make too much noise next to them because it can irritate them, so let's just gently kind of move. And Kathy in Tennessee, you have answered your own question absolutely correctly, so well done there. You say, is it normal for the males to hang around on their own, the older ones, and will the younger ones spend more time in a group together? Yes, you're absolutely correct, Kathy. The younger ones will spend time together, much more so than the old ones will. There he comes. And you can just get a sense of his mouth now. You can see him dripping from between his back legs. And throwing sand up onto himself. They tell me that that helps with ectoparasites. I'm not sure that it isn't just because they quite enjoy the feeling of soil on their bodies. Now he is a little bit interested in us because we have now driven next to him and are clearly following him, and he might take exception to that, so we just need to be a bit careful and make sure that if he does become uncomfortable, we just move out of here. Right, well, while we're enjoying this big elephant bull and hopefully the sun about to peep up behind him, Samuel Chevalier and birthday boy Bryan are up and mobile, and they too are with an elephant.
Good morning to all you beautiful people around the world. Have a look at this big elephant that is sitting in the watering hole here this morning. It is a special morning today because it is Bryan's birthday. It is Bryan Jabert's 30th birthday, and we are sitting with a beautiful big ellie bull inside the watering hole. It's a fantastic morning this morning. We are hugely privileged to be here. We've just been bumbling through the bushvelds to see what we could find, and we were so lucky to find this ellie come down to the watering hole and show us a good time. You can see he's quite a thirsty elephant. Let's have a look at him. Let's see what he's doing. He's getting his trunk in there. Wow. Wow, look how beautiful this big ellie bull is. He's having a nice big drink from the water. Oh, it's like a big straw that he fills up with water and then he puts into his mouth and puts into his belly so he could have a great day out on the low veld this morning. Look at that. Isn't he just a magnificent animal with those tusks? Let's see what you're up to do. What's you gonna do? as he pours it into his mouth. It's very, very, very cool. Listen to the sound of how he walks on this very cool morning air. With that, let's see if we can follow him. My name is Sam Chevalier. We are here in the Sabi Sands and we are about to follow this ellie on Bryan's 30th birthday. His thumb will tell you a lot about how he's feeling today. He was born at 4:16 this morning, and since then, he's been having a great time being 30. No longer is he a young 20-year-old. Let's follow the ellie. I'm gonna find a better way to get up here. It's a very, very still morning this morning. We're going to see if we can catch up with this ellie. So Bryan's requested, is it possible that we could see a pangolin on his birthday? I'll tell you what, I'm going to do my very best to see if we can find a pangolin on Bryan's birthday. But we know that that's not the easiest thing in the world to try and do. But we're going to do our very best out here to see if we can find a pangolin on his 30th birthday. But for now, let's have a look at this magnificent ellie who's just walking down this road, slowly but surely. Everyone is wishing Bryan a very happy birthday.
Thanks for all the wishes, everyone.
Bryan sends a big wish. Oh. There he goes. Let's just watch him go out into the bush. So maybe we can see 30 different elephants on Bryan's birthday. This is our first ellie of the morning. Hopefully we can find a big breeding herd that will give us up to 30 for this magnificent morning. You can actually see the sun is coming up. He's just covering the sun at the moment, but it's a bright orange. You can just see it in that screen. But we're going to go to a better position where we can see that sunrise. But thank you, Mr. Elephant Bull, for starting our morning, having a drink by the water. We all know what that feels like when you wake up in the morning or you're quite thirsty and you go to the bathroom and you just have a nice big drink of water. So you look like a very thirsty man. So he is going to head off into the bush and spend some time browsing and grazing on the low-field while we, on Bryan's birthday, go and see what we can find. Oh, here's that sun. Guys, this is incredible. Take this in, that red-orange color. Oh, I'm going to get to a position where we can see it properly. I know you just saw it with James, but another angle is always a great thing. It's just hiding behind these bushes in front of us. Wow, wow. Can you see that? No. Let's get to another position. Just to give you a feeling for what it's like this morning, it's still quite chilly. I should have worn a jersey. It was a bad mistake leaving the jersey behind. Ooh, the sun is just being covered and covered. But it's a chilly morning, but it's a magnificent morning here on the low-field. Alright, I'm going to go over there and we'll be able to see a good position of the sun rising on this beautiful day. Here is the start to many more years in Bryan's life. Sometimes the sun, we just can't get a good angle of the sun. You know what, guys, it's going to be difficult to find the sun. So it's a chilly morning, And that means that some of the animals are going to be lying up in areas where they can get some warmth. So as the day progresses, we might just be able to see more animals come out as they need to come towards the watering holes when it gets a little bit hotter. We know the sun is going to be hot today. Yesterday it was an absolute cracker. But I'm just seeing that sun peeking through the bushes every now and then, and I really want to see if I can get a nice angle for you all to have that beautiful glow. Just through the bushes there, you can just catch it. There we go. I'm so glad we managed to push through. Look at that red. Isn't that... Oh, that's incredible, huh? You can almost see it rising slowly there. It's going to come into full frame. Wow. So another morning here in the bushveld. It's going to be a good day. Maybe that sun will be able to help us find a pangolin today for Bryan's special birthday. On that note, how would you like this morning to unfold? Would you like to see a zebra? Would you like to see a giraffe? Would you like to see an ostrich? Myself and Bryan are going to do our very best to see what we can bring this morning, but we need your help in saying what you would like to see. So hashtag Safari Live and give us some answers to what you'd like to see, and we'll do our very best to see if we can find that this morning. As the sun rises over the horizon there, the bush begins to light up and all its beautiful creatures begin to walk through the landscape. While we are off to see what we can find this morning, let's go and see what James is up to.
Hello everybody. We're just trying to speed up this road here to find a superb view of the sunrise, which has just popped up. Oh, here we go. David, we're going to try through here. Oh, you're too high, aren't you?
Oh, that could work.
Is that going to work? There we go. We wanted to try and get you the sun rising up through these beautiful grasses, the Chloris roxburgiana, which of course I think is the prettiest grass that we have out here. And there is the great, well, I was about to say golden orb, it isn't gold at all, the great red orb of the sun. It's just risen over Africa yet again. The universe is supposed to be about 4.5 billion years old, and it's been coming up over the sun has been coming up over Earth, of course, for the last 2.5 billion years. And yet again, it has faithfully come up over the eastern horizon, bathing the land in the energy that it needs to provide the plethora of life that we so enjoy exploring all day long. Now, I know some of you wanted me to have a look on the Djuma Dam wall to see if there were any tracks of civets or something like that. Civets or aardvark, Gilly in Wisconsin, you said, civets or aardvark. What I did was I did drive over the dam wall, Gilly, and I had a look there, and I'm afraid I didn't find anything that resembled a aardvark or civet track. But that's not to say that there wasn't one there. All that says is that the ground is too hard, and so that's why I didn't find anything there. The ground is very hard indeed. Hold on one sec, I'm just going to get hold of Leo Smith. He is hailing me. Go ahead. I'll just let you hear
I
him.
can't find any tracks crossing. I'm going to check further to the east.
Copy, thanks, Brenty. Brent is following up on reports of Karula 150 meters to the south of our boundary last night. Now, 150 meters is not very far at all. 150 meters is how far? 150 meters is about 500 feet. So he's just checking the southern boundary to see what's going on there. Alrighty, well that's the sunrise, everyone. Very nice, of course. It always is. And now we're going to continue up towards the northern boundary of the reserve. And from there, well, I haven't quite decided. I think we'll probably pop across to Biffleshoek Dam, see what's there, and then head south ourselves. David, on we go.
Here we go.
Hello, Xenia Gold. An interesting one from you. And I mean, I've heard this in various guises from around the place. You say, where you are, you have the following maxim. You have a red sky at night, sailor's delight. Red sky in the morning, a sailor's warning. I've heard it called shepherd's delight and shepherd's warning, depending on, I suppose, whether you're in a marine environment or one where there are flocks of fluffy sheep hanging about the place. But no, you're interested to know if there isn't something local that has the same, or some local maxim to do with the different colors of the rising and setting sun. I don't know of any, Gilly, at least Xenia. I'm sure it does happen. There are a few, but there are none that are well known enough for me to know about them at this stage. I suppose I could ask a few people. I'll ask around, because I'm sure there must be some interesting ones. Just the same as there are interesting star names and star legends for some of the stars around here. Just keep listening to the Game Drive radio. Now this road here travels right through a seep line, so it is a bit bumpy. So if you are sitting with a cup of coffee, or perhaps you're having a last evening snifter before you go to sleep, don't spill it as we bump over the road here. I always drive this road hoping to see Mvula, my favorite male leopard, and I think I've seen him here once, and I think it was just very fleetingly, and he disappeared across the road. Kyle, some very valid question from you about how the cubs are doing. Now, for those of you who don't know, we have two female leopards around the place, both of whom have got cubs at the moment. We've got Shadow. She's got 2 cubs on Arethusa at the moment. They are about, how old are they now? They are probably about 5 weeks old, 5 to 6 weeks old. So we're about 2 weeks from trying to actively view them. And they are fine. They have been viewed. I saw a wonderful photograph of one of them on Instagram yesterday. And he was, I don't know, male or female, tiny little ball of spotted fluff. Very sweet indeed. And then Karulas, of course, we've only seen once. And they are fine as far as we understand it, but they are still to the south of the reserve. And they are 2 weeks older than, or 3 weeks older than Shadow's cubs. 3 to 4 weeks older than Shadow's cubs. But with any luck, both of them will be spending time on Djuma in the not too distant future. Shadow has been coming closer and closer towards the Djuma boundary. And so we should be able to spend some time with her soon. We can... Surely not. It's a stick, isn't it? It's a stick. David, in the fork of that tree there, it looks like an antelope has been stashed. But it has not. It is just a confusingly coloured piece of knobthorn bark. I got so excited there, everybody. My heart rate went up exponentially, and now it is crashing again as I realize my eyes have deceived me. Oh well, c'est la vie. Right in the fork of that large knobthorn. That's the biggest tree you can see there, Dave. Yeah. That's it. It just looked like those might be the sort of legs of an antelope hanging down, stashed in the tree by Mvula the leopard, but not. Okay, let's head back across to Samuel. He's got a nice view of the red sky, and do wish Bryan, a very happy birthday from all of us.
We managed to find a much better angle to watch the sun rise over the bushveld this morning. As you can see, it is very red and it's glowing through the trees there, which is great as we drive through the Mawati drainage here this morning. We are driving through the Mawati drainage because it is looking to see if we can find an inyala or a kudu. And what I've been doing over the last couple of days is drawing empathy maps, which is to try and understand the animal through drawing, and that's the best way in which I can learn. So, just in front of us here, you can see it almost looks like a kid drawing, but I've just been drawing the different animals that we get to find in different areas and learning a little bit about them, and that's the way in which I learn. So there's lots to learn out here in the bush, but taking it one day at a time is the best way to do it. So what we're doing now is we're going through the drainage here, and we're just going to follow it until we can see something like a nyala and a kudu, and we're going to have a look and to see how it manages to camouflage itself in this environment and why it is able to get away from the predators that it does. Because the other day when myself and Dave were driving this block, we were driving and trying to get away from wild dogs as best as possible, and it was an incredible sighting as we drove through here. But as I was driving past, I saw an inyala just sitting in the bushes that was so well camouflaged away from the wild dogs, and it got away just because of that little bit of camouflage. So let's see if we can find the kudu out here this morning. We have to be very, very aware of it ourselves because they'll be camouflaging themselves from us. So let's go on our adventure to find a kudu or an inyala. The inyala and the kudu are browsers, so they like to eat the leaves from different trees. And that is why they like these big, thick areas. So Miriam from California is asking, what is the different lifespan of the kudu? Kudus will have a number of different antelope will have different lifespans, but they can live up to 2 to 4 years depending on the difficulty of their terrain. If there are a number of predators that are around here, it makes their life a lot shorter. So they can live with a big male kudu. You can have a big male kudu that can live for a number of years because of its long horns on its head. But a big male kudu can probably live around 6 to 8 years. We're looking as hard as we can to see if we can find that kudu resting somewhere beneath the thicket here. And if we're lucky, it's also it's an area where you'll find secretive animals such as the leopard. So I'm going to keep looking around for the tracks so that we can see if we can find any tracks around here of a leopard that might show us his position. So keep your eyes peeled, see if you can look into that bush to see if you can see some white stripes on the side of it. That is the indicator of the kudu. That sun is coming through here now beautifully. Andrew is asking if I've developed any new fondness for any of the animals that I've had while viewing them here at WildEarth. I most certainly have, Andrea. I mean, that day that we spent with wild dogs was for me the most incredible day, just to learn a little bit more about how they live in their social structures and just to see the energy in which they move about their days and how they run off the antelopes, and it was incredible to watch them in the flesh. I've always said that when you experience something, you get to understand it a little bit more and you get to see its beauty, the intrinsic beauty of an animal. And to sit with those wild dogs that day like I had never done before. I got to see the inner beauty, the inner knowing of the wild dog. And it was fantastic to get to know the wild dog more. Hi Cheryl, you're asking, can you explain a little bit more about your empathy map? An empathy map is something we did at our university at Schumacher College in England, which was to get to know interspecies a bit better. You know, so you draw the animal, and while you're drawing the animal, you learn a little bit more about them. And through drawing, you can also, you know, it's just another form of communication instead of writing. So I was just trying new forms, new methods of learning that's not so linear, if that makes sense. So that was my empathy map. The empathy map was to draw all the different animals, learn about them, but not only just learn about them in terms of their lifespans and their gestation periods, but more about what is their relationship to the natural world, and how does a kudu relate to the Inyala in terms of the family species, and how does it relate to the type of plants that it likes to eat, and the type of areas that it goes to, and how does it relate to the predator of the landscape. So when you start to unravel more of the animal, you start to see it in relation to the ecology. And that has been my passion over the last couple of years. But I've never got to experience it like I'm experiencing it now with WildEarth. So it's all a new practice for me. But I believe that the more in which we experience the world around us, even if you don't know it and it's challenging, the more we get to know it a bit better. And that is conservation in my eyes. John's asking if we get any sable antelope here. So, you know, we used to get sable antelope here in the Sabi Sands. We don't get to see the sable as much because of the way in which the habitat has changed since the human influence here. So we don't actually see that many sable, and the reason why apparently we don't see the sable as much is because of the amount of water that has been brought into the Sabi Sands. So as you know, some of the watering holes have been pumped, and that creates a lot more water in this landscape than there used to be, and that then causes a difference in habitat. So it changed the habitat of the sable, and so the sable has moved off. But if you go into different parts of the Kruger, you have a much better chance of finding sable. I myself have never seen a sable before, and I would love to see a sable. Well, this kudu is very well hidden wherever it is. It's not easy to find them. I know that I've just set the intention of finding a kudu and an Inyala. But it'll be so exciting when we do, because we've put so much effort into looking for the kudu. But that's what the coolest thing is sometimes about being out in the bush. You might be looking for one thing and you end up finding everything else. Let's link back to James and see what he's doing. I think he's tracking. Maybe you might find a leopard. Let's go and see.
Sorry, we had a slightly strange experience with our link there. Rebecca sounded like she had exploded completely in the final control, but everything seems to be okay. Anyway, we have some leopard tracks here. We haven't found the leopard. We're right on the northeastern corner, though, of Juma, and there's a young male leopard walking along the road. Well, there was a young male leopard walking along the road here at some stage. I don't know if he still is. We're just going to drive slowly up to the top of the hill there. But given the fact that there are two very large, very proud-looking kudu bulls over there that don't look to be in a great state of panic, I think the chances of there being a leopard around, then I'm not sure what we can do about that. And apparently Sam was looking for a kudu, and well, there you are, Sam. I must apologize if our audio does go up and down. It's difficult to modifier with this current camera that we're using. This is this great night camera. Obviously it's not nighttime now, but a new camera will be arriving back today with Willem Doornbrach. He is a perfect kudu bull. That wide, oh there, behind us, alarm calling animals. Sounded like another kudu alarm calling, unfortunately inside Buffelshoek. We're just going to listen. I just heard bah, bah. But now all seems to be peace again. Let me sneak forward. These kudu are spectacular. I'm trying to vary my adjectives today, everyone. So every time I trip over an adjective, it's because I'm trying to find a new one to use. As we were discussing yesterday, you do get very stuck into the same words if you're not careful. Yeah, this male leopard's going up the road here. At the top of the road there, the end of the road that you can see is the end of where we're allowed to traverse. And what you see emerging there is Bryan Smith on tracking team. And you can refer to Bryan Smith as a team because he's, of course, loud enough for 10 or 12 people. There's a kudu cow with these very impressive bulls. Very peacefully browsing across the landscape here. We had a wonderful question yesterday, and it was highly astute. I think it was yesterday, it may have been the day before, about whether or not giraffe and kudu and other browsers are more or less water dependent than the grazers. And I've never actually thought about it until this question was asked. And the answer, of course, is that animals like kudu and giraffe are almost completely water independent. So while they will drink if they can, they don't have to. It was yesterday morning, I remember now, we were watching a kudu, just after we'd watched a kudu drinking. And so although we did see the kudu drinking, they don't have to. Their kidneys are extremely efficient at extracting water out of their blood. The urine is extremely concentrated. And so they don't waste a lot of moisture at all. They're just coming towards us. I think it is worth us just sitting here, watching them filter through the trees there. There are some elephants I can hear going in the distance. They're cross about something. They probably crossed with Bryan Smith, who's just driven back down our eastern boundary. I don't want to move everyone because they're getting quite close now and it might make them react. So let's just wait and see if they don't come into view. I don't really know how to answer this. Bryan, a nice question from you. Has any animal out here taken a particular liking to me? Bryan, I'd like to think so, but I'm not really sure that that isn't just wishful thinking on my part. So, I mean, we'd had that young male leopard we used to view quite often, that we called Sindile, until he was unfortunately had to go to a rehab center. He wasn't on drugs. He unfortunately caught a domestic dog and therefore had to go into quarantine. And I used to see him on foot quite often, and he just seemed to have a connection. But I've had that connection with a number of male leopards, young male leopards, and I'm not sure that it was anything different from the connection that other people have with them. And the same thing goes for some elephants, that you begin to recognize. And I've no doubt that they can recognize us as individuals. Elephants especially will react in very different ways to different people. they pick up on your energy, they pick up on how you're feeling very quickly. And so I've often thought, well, I'm sure I have a connection with that particular elephant. But I'm not sure, Bryan, that isn't entirely wishful thinking. There's an elephant crossing the road behind us. He's gone. Sorry, he's gone, Dave. In fact, no, there are some more. There's some more there.
Got an aerial right.
Let me go back a bit. Now, Stella or Bella, I'm not sure which. 1 second, sorry, there are some elephants behind us. Bella, you're interested in if I've ever seen an African wildcat here. I think you were wondering if I could have ever mistaken an African wildcat's tracks for a civet's tracks. Yes, it is entirely possible, Bella, but there are some very distinguishing markers. First of all, an African wildcat's track is much smaller than the civet's. Well, not much smaller, but it is smaller. African wildcat, you will never see claws in. A civet, you will often see claws in the track. And an African wildcat, there's a lovely herd of elephants here, just crossing towards Buffelshoek Dam. So let's go down towards the dam and we'll see if they don't come down to drink. That would be special. Bella, so it is absolutely possible. Oh, I see. Sorry, not a civet, a domestic cat. Is it possible to confuse an African wildcat with a domestic cat? Yes, it would be. It's the same, it's almost the same animal, of course. The African wildcat is derived from, at least the domestic cat is derived from the African wildcat, domesticated by the Egyptians many thousands of years ago. Wonderful herd of elephants here. Let me just try and get into a position where we can look at them. They're moving quite quickly. I wonder if it isn't because they're going towards the dam. Sorry, we're not going to get a great view of them here. We'll just get a slight view of them coming through the gap there. And then they're going into some very thick bush as they head towards Buffelshoek Dam. So I think let's head down that way. Okay, nice herd of elephants. So yes, African wildcat tracks very much similar to a large domestic cat's tracks. An African wildcat, just to give you an idea, is probably stands about, what's that, a foot and a bit tall at the shoulder. So slightly taller than most domestic cats. Longer legs, but about the same weight as your average New York tabby, I imagine, but much larger than most Siamese or a little Burmese cat of some size, probably the same sort of mass as a Persian. These elephants are not happy for some reason, I'm not sure why. Interestingly, Brent just called in another herd of elephants that also, he said, were unrelaxed, not happy about something. There are a whole lot more down through there. Just carry on rather than try and view them through the thick bush. All right, let's, while I try and get into a position here, let's head across to, I think, to Sam.
What I was doing there was trying to see if I could not be seen. So I don't know if you managed to see me as I was sitting behind the bushes there, but I was trying to act like a kudu inside this environment. I know you just saw one with James, and now you know exactly what a kudu looks like, but I thought I would hide behind the tree and see if I can get away like a kudu and see if you couldn't see me. So I think you probably could have seen me, but that's the general way in which you did. I know that you were chatting with James a little bit about him being an animal. Ooh, sorry, not him being an animal. I was actually more of an animal over there. But the relationship between both animals and humans. So I tried to be an animal there. It wasn't that easy. Tried to eat some grass, some twigs. Wasn't the most comfortable thing I've ever tasted in my life. But I found this stick while I was in here. And it's very, very square. If you notice here, look how square this branch is. And it's a type of raisin. I know it's from a raisin tree, but I'm actually not sure what the name of that raisin tree is that has a very square bark. So, if any of you guys know what this raisin is, please hashtag Safari Live. Let me know. I'll be fascinated to know what the name of that raisin is. Must say I thoroughly enjoy just getting out the vehicle and pretending to be a kudu behind the bush. Do you think I was secretive? I didn't feel very secretive, I tried to. Actually, let's go down here. We're going to go past the drainage line again. And when you come across drainages, as I said earlier, the best chance of seeing kudu and nyala, but you guys have already seen a kudu with James, which is exciting. This kudu. But it is beautiful. The sexual female Inyala is just incredible. It almost looks like the male Inyala's got a big coat on his back.
Now, the only thing I've done since you last saw me is take off my, I nearly said shirt, but I haven't done that. I've taken off my jacket. It would be inappropriate for me to drive around without a shirt on. But the elephants I'm just trying to assess here, they're moving through this woodland down towards Buffelshoek Dam. They seem relatively relaxed now. But you know, you get a sense from elephants. You get a sense as to whether they are happy or not. This herd doesn't give me a sense of particularly being relaxed, and there you can see one kind of moving quite quickly across the frame. I think there's a big bull in there as well, and he might be harassing some of the younger cows. Yeah, that's a young bull. Here is a monstrous bull. Just off to the right-hand side there. There we go. And the subject of must is coming up again and again because there are many elephants in must at the moment. Look at the tusks. Look at that white color shining through the green. And Sherry, you're interested as to whether or not these elephants come into must every day. I'm just going to get hold of Brent quickly, Sherry. Go again with that, Brent. Negative, I've got the herd here on Buffelshoek East. They seem okay. Okay, Brent says that there is a herd of elephants coming the other way down Hippo Pools Road towards the dam, and they are not happy. He got chased by one of the cows. So that is very strange. So as I was saying, I just don't get a vibe of peace from these chaps. And that might be due to must bull elephants. It might be due to something else. I don't know. It might be competition over resources. It's difficult to say. So, Sherry, must. We're just going to ease our way down the road here. I'm not going to get too close to these fellows. And we may turn around and go the other way, just depending on what they do. I'm smelling must again now. And Sherry, you're interested in whether they come into must every year or not. Now, the subject of must is not, I don't believe, particularly well understood. I haven't read hugely sort of cogent accounts of must and what happens with it. But they do come into must probably once a year or so, but not always at the same time. And the thing is, the period of must does differ and does vary. So the older the elephant is, the longer the must period will be. It can be up to, I've read up to sort of 9 months or so, but I'm just listening to these elephants here. So they're all feeding through the woodland here. Young elephants will go into must, of course. They'll go into must for very brief periods, and I think sometimes they don't even realize they've just Point the camera through here. There's a huge elephant about, well, probably 20 meters from us. And you can hardly see him. We're just listening here and assessing. Yeah, you can see these guys seem to be relatively peaceful now. Now, Buffelshoek Dam is about, what should we say, in front of us by about 200 meters or so, 700 feet. And the other herd of elephants is coming apparently from the left-hand side of your screen, the herd that Brent had a bit of trouble with. So we'll just keep our eyes open and our ears open especially. And until this year, you know, people used to say, well, you know, the question is often, well, is there seasonality to elephant breeding? Do the males come into must at the same time? Do they synchronize their must? And the answer has always been no, not really. But this year, all these males seem to be in must at the same time. There are must bulls all over the place. And while we're just watching these chaps gently sort of browsing down the road here in the wondrous light, isn't it just beautiful, that kind of dawn light touching the green leaves and shining onto the elephant there. Lael, you're in Washington, and another astute question from you as to whether when an elephant mates, do they mate more than once, or is it just one event and then they kind of move on and it's done? And would one male mate with more than one female during a must period? Yes, I think he would. I think he would mate with as many females as he could, because he obviously will move from herd to herd. He is sort of a herdish, if you know what I mean. He doesn't have a particular herd that he will follow, so he'll join up with whatever herd that he can. And I think you'll probably find he mates once with an estrus female before he moves on. Whether that would almost inevitably result in conception or not, I don't know. You know, she might then mate with another bull. I would think that it's probably not very clear cut. I think you'd probably find that an elephant might mate with a female twice if he didn't move on from the herd. And quite possibly if she didn't conceive, then she would mate again, if she was very early in her estrus, for example. But interestingly, for an elephant to mate, she really has got to want to mate with him because of the mechanics of their genitalia. She's got to reverse basically into him in order for them to be any sort of contact. So it's not like he can sort of force himself. Despite his massive size, he cannot force himself on any of the females. He can harass them though, and that is often why elephant herds are in a state of unhappiness. I know this isn't the best view, everyone, but I'm going to stay here, just given that we think that these elephants are a little bit unhappy or slightly unrelaxed. There is another chap just in front of us. There he is. He's still in there. You can just see his tail wagging. And he's moving dead wood in order to get at the rich guinea grass that grows underneath them. As we look at his tusks shining through the grass, through the leaves there, Leo King, can you tell, you say, the age of an elephant from its tusks? No, you can't, Leo. Tusks are a little bit like, I'm trying to liken it to something in human beings. Tusks do keep growing throughout the elephant's life. So from that way, I suppose you logically follow that you should therefore be able to tell the age. But no, they are genetically very different sizes. So an elephant that age in front of us, he's probably about 25-ish, and his tusks are not very large. Some elephants of the same age are going to have much bigger tusks. Some will have smaller tusks, and some will have no tusks at all. So you cannot age an elephant from his tusks, no. You can age an elephant, I'm just going to sneak forward, he looks like he's pretty relaxed actually. You age an elephant largely, Leo, from, well, I mean it does have a lot to do with the experience of viewing elephants. You can age them from the condition of their skin, their body condition, their body shape. And big mature elephant bull is often very sort of rounded around the head and around the body. I'm just keeping an eye on him here. There are some young bulls in front of us who are having a bit of argy-bargy. I always like to say the word argy-bargy. So this chap is quite close to us now. He's only about 10 meters from us, 33 feet. And I would quite like to get past these young bulls here to see if the others are at the dam, but I don't want to push them out the way. So we'll just let them carry on doing what they're doing. And Deborah, another astute question from you, and I think you'll probably answer it yourself, like so often happens. Are there more elephants in the area than there are usually, more breeding herds? And the answer is yeah, definitely. Of course, elephants do they're nomadic, so they'll move all over the place, and sometimes almost for no apparent reason, elephants will appear in one area and then disappear again fairly soon thereafter. But in the case of the Sabi Sands, I think what you'll find is that because the water here is so much more abundant than it is in many parts of the Kruger, a lot of elephants, as the dry season starts to take hold, are going to come into the Sabi Sands. There's our friend just sticking his tusks out. Now we can get a good look at him. And Kevin Catfish, if you don't mind, I'm not going to repeat your question verbatim. You want to know, is there a correlation between the increased enthusiasm that the bulls have for mating and the dry season that we've experienced? Kevin, I don't know for sure. I don't know why it would be, but I can't think of any other kind of environmental trigger that would have made it so that all the elephants have come into must and seem to be ready to mate. I don't know, Kevin. I think it's quite a good thought. Maybe there's something in them that is able to predict to predict a weather cycle, that if all the cows mate now, they know that in 2 years' time there will be abundant rain, and so it'll be a good time for them to mate now. It's possible that over the millennia they have evolved the ability to sort of pick up and perceive the patterns of nature and patterns of rainfall in this area, so that's possible. Now there's another big bull. He's got lovely tusks, this fellow. We're looking at lots of bulls that are hanging around on the side of the fringes of the herd. Some of them in must. That one is in must. I can see he's dripping. His inside of his back legs is wet. And Bryan, while we're looking at all these bulls, of course, look at him shaking the marula tree there. Oh, don't push that over. Don't push it over. Oh, no. That's one of the great giants of the bushveld here, of course, the marula tree. Leave it alone. Yes, just pick a branch. That's a much better idea. I can smell his musk now, sickly sweet smell. It's like a sickly sweet leather smell. So Bryan, you're interested in where the females give birth. Do they go and seek out privacy and solace somewhere? And Bryan, the answer is, you can maybe hear him. Can you hear him? Rubbing himself against the tree? They don't, Bryan. The females actually give birth within the herd, and the herd kind of celebrates. The other cows, the mature cows, will stand around the cow giving birth. They'll protect her because she's obviously vulnerable at that stage. And then there's a great squealing and sort of whistling and wailing and trumpeting, and it's a really joyful event in the life of a herd when the females, or the cows, give birth. Going to ease our way down here towards the dam, where I think there might be some drinking. There might not. Miss Lynn, well, you're worried about whether or not they stand on their trunks or not. Miss Lynn, the adults don't. No, the adults don't stand on their trunks. The youngsters would. But if you notice, or what you can notice with very young elephants, very young elephants can't touch the ground with their trunks, and that's because their trunks are so uncoordinated that they would almost inevitably stand on them if they could touch the ground. But you'll watch with an elephant like the one we're looking at, that big bull there, when he stretches his trunk, he can touch the ground, but he's got a sort of arrangement of concertina muscles there that prevent that happening. And they're very, very aware of where their feet are. Right, let's head across to Sam. He's got a smaller tusked animal to show you.
We have a warthog just in the bushes here, and we've been sitting with him for a little come out, but he was in focus for a few seconds, but he's being very, very secretive at the moment. So I think if we be a little bit patient, we'll get to see that beautiful warthog as it comes through the bush. But at the moment, he's feeding on some tubes, so you can't actually see that right now. So let's talk about the warthog a little bit. He's a solitary male, what looks like, and we can tell it's a male because I saw earlier that it had 2 sets of warts on its face, and that's a very distinctive feature of a male. And often you'll find the males will also be solitary, so the females will be moving in family groups together, and the males will sometimes form, or will form, bachelor groups together, and they'll move around the bushveld. So I haven't actually seen many warthogs while I've been here, but they're a very, very interesting animal, and they like to use homes like from ant bears, or otherwise known as the anteater. And the anteater makes these holes, they dig, or aardvark. It digs a hole in the termite mound, and will use that as a nesting space. And often if it's empty, a warthog will take that place and go in there, but it'll always go in from another direction. So instead of going forwards, and it goes backwards, so its tusks come out like this. And sometimes when you see a leopard on top of a termite mound, he's waiting for a warthog to come out of it. And that's very, very interesting. I know that we saw that with lions on WildEarth not so long ago, where Tingana that ripped out a warthog from a termite mound. So the warthog's actually just gone into the thicket there. But he is a very, very cool animal to have a look at. Yeah, so it was Tingana that did that, which was a leopard, of course, but also the Inkohumas the other day when I was actually, first time I came onto Safari Live on the internet before I applied for the job, I went on to the show and James was sitting right by a termite mound with the warthogs in there and the lions were walking around it. So that must have been such a fun interaction to have seen. So those are the warthogs. Hopefully we get to see another sight of the warthog. We don't know though. Apparently James managed to find over 30 elephants already. That's exciting, Bryan. They found the 30 elephants for your 30th birthday. Okay, so our plan at the moment is we're just going to go towards warthog. James Richard is asking if I've ever driven through the Kruger. So no, James, I've never driven through the Kruger. The only time I've spent in the bush was actually 7 months at a reserve called Londolozi, just south of us at the moment. So my time here in the bush is still young and I still have lots to learn and lots to see around these areas. So I'm looking forward, James, to be able to go into that place and actually see the ecology of the Kruger. It's very, very different to that of the savannah. But I'm still young and I've still got loads of time and I can see a lot. Hopefully you'll get to see some of it with me. But as we were saying, I'm going towards Buffelshoek Dam now. And we have every chance of seeing a hippo, but it's still quite early in the morning, so there's always the chance that a hippo will be out of water. And it is at night time it comes out. The hippos come out at night time. So our best chance of seeing it is now. As the morning is received, we'll see it sitting in the bush grazing. They can graze the whole night if they have to. Georgie Ann, well done. I think that's exactly what it is. I've taken a sample back to my house to have a look at it. As the common name square raisin. So yes, I think that might just be it. Square stemmed raisin. Well done, Georgie Ann. I'm so glad you can help me with my plant identifying while I'm out here. And if you felt the leaves, if you feel the leaves of that, it's very, very much like sandpaper. Okay, so we're coming up to the watering hole now. As I said, we have all the chance of seeing hippo, but we can also see buffalo. And we've seen a number of times buffalo here. The other day, myself and Bryan actually watched 2 buffaloes that were running into each other. It was very, very exciting. I've actually seen that twice since I've been here. But we also may see some big birds like a grey heron. Who knows what we're going to see? We might just see nothing. Oh, we've got a big ellie. I can see an ellie and a buffalo. This is great. There's 1, 2, 3. Wow, there's way more than 30 ellies here. And there's a hippo. Oh, this is incredible. I told you. Look at this, guys. Yes. I'm so glad we came here, Bryan. Let's watch the ellies feed. Cheapers. I'm actually going to do a count because I think there is way more than 30 here. There's some little youngsters here that are drinking. There's more than one family here. It must be about 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 families over here, and there's all sort of action going on here. Wow. How epic is that? Have a look at the 2 just ahead of me here. What are you guys up to? They were just before the camera came on them, they were pushing each other with their trunks. There seemed to be a little bit of unease between them. The one looks like a female, the one on the right. John's asking how long will elephants sleep for, and do they lie down? You know, it's a very rare thing to watch elephants lying down. I've never seen that before, just with a youngster lying down next to its mother. But sleeping, what I do know is that they feed 22 hours of a day. Ooh, what's going on there? There's something interesting about this, I think. I think it could be they're quite unrelaxed with the amount of family groups here. There could be more matriarchs that are just having a little bit of conflict with one another. It could be some males. But there's definitely some unease in this big group here. Just watch them drinking. Have a look at that trunk. We saw the big male this morning drinking, and now we can see the youngsters drinking. And how cool is it to watch them suck it up like a straw through their trunk and put it in their mouth? Wow, awesome. Look at that youngster that's right next to his mom. And there comes the other youngster. And they can fit right underneath the belly of their moms. It's so cool that we can see that. Hello, little guy. There's another very small one. He's just fitting underneath his mom there. So when a predator or anything happens, the youngster will go right underneath that belly, and that is the best form of protection that little ellie can get. Because this is the most vulnerable stage of an elephant's life, is when it's a young ellie. Ooh. Have a look. Ooh. John's asking if baby elephants are born blind. No, John, they're actually precocial. Well, ooh, he's struggling to get down there. If you saw that, here we have ooh, look at the size. So, John, they're born precocial, so that they can walk and see when they are born. Wow, it's huge. Isn't this magnificent, everyone? We're seeing so many elephants in the morning drinking. Look at the sky, it's nice and blue, some cloud. It's going to be a fantastic day here for Bryan's 30th birthday. Nature is beautiful. Thank you so much for counting all those elephants. Counted 45 there. So we asked to see up to 30 today. We saw 45. So they gave you an extra 15 on your birthday, Bryan. Isn't that cool? Wow. Jake's asking, what is the average weight of a tusk? And it's around 40 pounds. Look at that little youngster there. Hello. Oh, man. He can't be more than 6 months to a year old. And it's so funny watching the youngsters when they're young, because they don't know what their trunks are. So they just flow and throw their trunks all around, trying to learn how to use it, and that's how they learn about it. Yeah, so James spoke about how the little ellie will step on his trunk because he doesn't quite know how to use them. So you've spoken about this morning. We've had a great morning of elephants, learning a little bit more about how the little elephant walks around and gets to know his environments and sits with his mother. But look at that. Look at them all moving off into the bushveld together. There seems to be a lot more relaxation between this big breeding herd. when we came in, it definitely seemed like there was a little bit of unrelaxed tension between some of them. But look at them just heading off. It's such a magnificent sight to watch elephants heading off into the bush and how they form those lines behind each other. Wow. Gina's asking if the male elephants ever help with the young ones. Not to my knowledge that they do, Gina. From the way in which I've seen young elephants growing up, they stick to their mothers until they get a bit older. And you can actually see one feeding from the mother there. But I know that the male will protect the youngster if there is some sort of danger that is facing the young elephant, such as a lion or a leopard, because that's when, as I said a little bit earlier, the elephants are most vulnerable. Have a look at that ellie just drinking some milk from its mother, and the other big one going up that hill. This is so cool. So much action is going on here. Wow. And within all of this action sits a hippo in the middle of the watering hole, just sitting there, all on his own. I wonder how he feels when he sees this many elephants coming down to the watering hole. Ooh, what's going on there? You see, there is definitely some sort of tension, conflict going on between some of the elephants this morning. Wow, listen to that. Natasha from Ontario is asking how long can a hippo stay out of the waterfall? Natasha, it's all dependent on the environment that it's living in. A hippo, if it's a very, very hot environment, well, let's just have a look at the tension between these guys before I answer your question. They're wrapping their trunks together, they're putting their trunk against. This is behavior I've never seen before. It doesn't seem to be that hostile. Their ears are very relaxed. Often when, but he's now moving away. So that was a very interesting interaction that happened there. The question was, Natasha from Ontario, how long can a hippo stay out of water? And it is very dependent on the environment that it's living in. So if it's very, very hot, it'll try and stay in the water for as long as it can, because it gets very, very, very hot in the sun. And it starts to excrete a substance, a very pink substance, when it gets burnt. And that has been told, can act as a sun cream for the hippo. But I've told the story many, many times, or twice or three times, about how the hippo found its way into water. And what he did was he convinced the guards that he could no longer bear the land because he was getting burnt in the sun, so he jumped into the water and told them, I will eat none of that fish. Well, here they go again. He's putting his trunk over. So I'm finding it difficult to sometimes see if this is an active play or if there's some sort of conflict. Megan's asking if these are two young bulls that are slowly being pushed away from the group. My answer to that is that it could very well be that, Megan, but they don't seem to be that big yet, and it's only when they get much, much bigger do they leave the herds. But they definitely are of a significant age, probably from 5 to 8 years old, but that looks like a female. A male? No, that's a male. But that was a fascinating interaction that we had there with the elephants. How lucky we were to come to Buffelshoek Dam. Such a great idea. Bryan? With that, Luke's asking, does Buffel's hook, translated into English, have something to do with buffalo? Yes, it very well does. Buffel's hook. I think it means buffalo corner. Does it mean that, Bryan? Ooh. Hold on, I just saw the elephants that were having another interaction there. Okay, goodbye for now. Thank you for that behavior. Very interesting to see that. So it actually means buffalo corner. Buffel's hook, buffalo corner in Afrikaans, which I'm not very good at. I can't really speak Afrikaans that well. I try to, I'll speak one sentence. Ek moet gaan by die winkel, which means I must go to the shops. But I don't think it's in any of the right conjunction or anything. So I did learn it in school. So Buffel's Hook is the original name of the farm that we are on now. That's really interesting. Thank you, Rebecca, for telling me that. I didn't know that was the name of the farm, Buffel's Hook. Ooh, have a look at that. You can just see a buffalo through the corner. There we go. Have a look at that big buffalo sitting, chewing its cud right by the watering hole. There's the size of his boss on his head. This is where he's probably going to spend most of his day today. It's going to turn into a hot day, so he's going to say, I would rather not go into the blistering heat. I'm going to stay here by the water, drink some water, chew my cud, and have a great day. I think there's a perfect song for you right now. Buffalo soldier in the heart of America. A little bit of Bob Marley, which I love. Bob Marley, Buffalo Soldier. Meg from North Carolina is asking, when I see interesting behavior as such, with the elephants that we just saw now, will I go back and research, or will I go and talk to the other guides? Well, as I'm still learning a lot about this, I'll go and speak to the guides about some of the behavior that I saw in the morning, or I'll go and research it. But the best reference you can get are people that have experienced that behavior, that have seen the behavior. So it's talking to James, Jamie, Brent, asking them a little bit more about what they've experienced, and if they've experienced such phenomenon will be the best thing for me to do, because sometimes references online or that sort of thing aren't as valid as they should be. Ooh, we're just going some big thick bush here. Alright, so we've had a good morning of seeing ellies. We've seen over, I think, 46 already, more than what we wanted to see for the birthday of Mr. Bryan Jabir. I still want to see a kudu, because I feel like I want to show you more about the kudu, because I've been studying the kudu a lot, and I'm hugely interested in the dynamic of a kudu, understanding its landscape, understanding its ecology. So we're going to carry on driving through the thicker areas to see if we can find a kudu or a nyala. At the same time, we could also come across a leopard, so I'm going to be looking out for some tracks. But you know what I do? I really enjoy, studying in the evening. So I go back to my room and I study all that I've learned in the day, and I write them down. I've actually got a journal that I write down all my experiences and talk about what I've seen, because hopefully over the many years that I spend out here, I can learn more about the ecology and form my own opinions about the behaviors of different animals. So I don't know if you guys hold journals or keep a journal. Let me know if you do. I'll be interested if you do. I find journals is the best way for me to learn about what I'm experiencing, because I can talk about it. Talk about what's in my mind. But Erin and Angela are asking, are there any snakes in the bush at this time of the year? So the answer is yes and no, purely because we're moving between the seasons. So in summer we often find the snakes like the black mamba, the boomslang, which we're seeing.
Well, you'll join us at a very interesting juncture, everybody. That herd of elephants that we were following, Sam popped out at Bivouac Dam, and that was the front end of it. We were, of course, blocked by those bulls, and I'm so glad you got to see them drinking. I'm actually quite jealous, to be honest. I was really hoping that we were going to see them doing the same thing. But we've come to the area where Tingana was yesterday with his little kudu that he killed, hapless female that she was. And apparently he is still around here, so let's go and have a look, and we'll spend a bit of time with our favorite prince of Djuma. Now he's in around here somewhere. He hung his kill in a jackalberry tree not too far from us, just over there, and then apparently he was on the ground between this very prominent tree up on a termite mound over there, and the one we had it yesterday to the right-hand side. So keep an eye out on the ground for the dappled spots of Tingana the male leopard. Ease our way gently in here. I must say Rusty is much quieter than the other cars. So here is a big jackalberry tree here on a termite mound. It's a very prominent landmark in this area, and that's not the one where he had his kill. Hello, fella. You see him, everyone? He's just in front of us there on the ground, very relaxed, having had a substantial amount of meat over the last 3 days, panting away. Now, I am going to try and get a bit closer to him, and hopefully we'll be able to see the condition of his left hind leg, which was injured a little while back. But it's clearly not harming him. One day, of course, we will do this in electric vehicles, and then there will never be the sound of roaring engines. I did do one safari once in an electric vehicle down south at Londolozi. Unfortunately, the experimental vehicle that was the electric car, well, it exploded one day, and so the experiment was cancelled. I'm going to ease in here and see if we can't. He's normally very confiding. If we don't drive over anything, he might let us get all the way up to him. I think I'm going to stop there. There we go. Full frame, magnificent male leopard. course, at this juncture, one should take a photograph of Tingana. And of course, we know that the latest technique for photograph taking is to place the phone lens through those of the binoculars. It's going to be a great shot, this, everyone. Possibly a National Geographic cover photo coming up. David, there's no lack of flies here, is there?
Not at all.
No. Very enthusiastic they are. I also just heard some elephants, I think, nearby. That could be quite interesting. Look at him panting. He looks so uncomfortable because he's eaten so much food. And of course he is uncomfortable because his diaphragm is being squashed by his big fat full belly. Which will be the National Geographic shot of the year. When the sunlight catches his face, it's just too pretty. The temperature has warmed up a bit, but it's by no means hot. It's a very pleasant temperature at the moment. And I will sneak slightly forward a bit later and I'll show you where the kill is. I will just tell you that at this stage, there's very little of it left. And Megs, you're in North California wondering about the amount of food that a leopard like this is able to eat, especially given that he looked full yesterday morning. Megs, a lot is the answer. Probably as much as 25%, 25 to 30% of his body weight in one sitting. So he probably weighs 75 to 80 kilograms, which is about 200 pounds roughly. So, I mean, he could eat up to 50 pounds of meat in one sitting if he had to. But what happens is, you're absolutely right, he was full yesterday. But what happens is that huge belly of his will very quickly go down. It will very quickly digest. He's breathing like this also to oxygenate the blood that is sort of running over his stomach and intestines, and that meat will be very quickly digested. He's just moving into some shade, and we too can move with him. And so, although he looks full now, in a couple of hours he won't look as full, and he'll be able to eat yet again. And I think he'll probably spend another day here. I'll show you the kill now. So there's the kill. Dave will just show you now. It's up in the tree there. You can see just bits of stringy kudu cow hanging there. He's eaten probably 85 to 90% of it, I'd say. There might be a little bit left. He certainly, I think those hyenas would have to have been extra patient to have sat there for the duration of that thing being eaten. Very obviously, highly skillfully by this male leopard. He doesn't seem to have dropped anything. Although, Dave, you say he came close to dropping it yesterday afternoon.
It almost looks like it would.
Right, we'll just move into the gap here. Megan, I'm just getting into a position here and then I'll answer your question. How's that, Dave? Is that any good for you?
Yeah, that's good.
And Megan, another one from you about their fastidious cleanliness. As we got in here, of course, he was licking his paws and then wiping his face. And this is a different Megan, sorry. But different Megan. You've obviously seen lions eating, and you're saying a leopard's generally cleaner than they are. Absolutely. A lion, with due respect to it, is a fairly disgusting animal in terms of its ability to keep itself clean. You will never find a leopard, for example, in this state, lying right next to a pile of its own dung or scat, whereas lions around a kill site will go to the loo all over the place and eat around there and then lie in amongst their own kind of waste, which is not really befitting of their royal moniker, the king of beasts. A leopard will never do that. A leopard will go off and defecate somewhere private, come back. They will always be cleaner. They don't ever lie down with their faces covered in blood and gore like the lions do. So he will clean his face. There, he's doing it right now, just like a house cat. He looks very cuddly now, doesn't he? I don't want to cuddle Tingana, I promise. So, although I'm being a bit sarcastic about the lions, it is important to understand that the reason lions don't do this, the reasons lions aren't so fastidious about their cleanliness, is that they don't have to be. They're confident. They can leave their waste all over the place, and the stink, of course, might attract hyenas, but hyenas will be very nervous of doing anything around sort of a big pride of lions. But a leopard, of course, if it attracts hyenas, it can get itself into trouble. So it'll always remove itself from a kill area and go to the loo away from where the kill is. Leo King, you were asking is he tired by that panting? We were chatting about his panting as we came in here. No, he's not tired at all, I don't think. I think he's just digesting that food, trying to oxygenate the blood and around the stomach as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible so that the digestive process can happen as quickly as possible. He's slightly encumbered by having such a fat belly, and I think it's probably uncomfortable. I don't think it must feel very nice at all. See if you can hear him. I don't know if we can hear him over the noise of the doves calling. Panting, panting, panting. And we have an inquiry from somebody with the Twitter handle Andy's Art Blog Diary. And Andy's Art Blog Diary, you're interested to know how long a leopard lives. Well, Andy's Art Blog Diary, a leopard will live for up to, in captivity, about 20 years in theory. But out here, I think it's highly unlikely that a male leopard would live beyond 14 or 15. The oldest recorded male leopard in this area was 15 years old. He was called the Campan male, and he came from not too far south of here. And then the oldest recorded female leopard was a 17-year-old, and that was the 3-4 female of Londolozi. There was some talk of an 18-year-old around here, but I don't think they had quite as accurate records, but so potentially 18. Captivity 20, yeah, but 18 is really old here. And a lot of you will be wondering, of course, about male leopards and female leopards and what the differences are. This leopard probably weighs, like I said, about 200 pounds, so he's a big fellow. And one of the easiest ways to tell that he's male, Bryan, is by that dewlap that is underneath his chin. You want to know what that flap of skin underneath his chin is. It's called a dewlap. Right, on that note, while Tingana lies in sweet repose, very satisfied after eating kudu meat all night long, Let's head across to Sam and see what he is discovering.
So we've had an incredible morning so far with an ellie down by the watering hole drinking, and then to about 45 different elephants drinking by the watering hole for Bryan's birthday. So that was fantastic. But now we're sitting here out in the open, and I just wanted to bring, some of this world in, this natural environment in, the beauty of the natural world and how it actually exists, but how it exists within the wisdom of the land. And I was exceptionally lucky, well, I am very lucky to be trained by not only by the trainers at the camp, but also by the Shangaan people who live in this land. And yesterday I went driving out with a good friend of mine called Fanoti, and he's a local indigenous man, and I asked respectfully, please can I learn a little bit more about your ways in which you live in the land, how are you connected to it, and just if you're willing to share, I'll be happy to learn. And so he taught me some incredible things yesterday, and I was so grateful to hear that, because if we're going to learn about how the land is, the people that lived on this land for the longest are the ones that know it intimately. They have that innate connection to the natural world. And so it's powerful information, and throughout the world we need to protect that indigenous wisdom, because that is the answers to the way in which we can live more conducively to the land. And here I'm sitting with some elephant dung, and it's still quite moist. And what was fascinating yesterday is Fanoti came and he gave me this, and he said, Sam, if you've ever got a headache, I want you to go and get the dung of an elephant, and I want you to light it with a lighter or a flame or something, and the smoke will come out. And in that moment, I want you to inhale the smoke into your lungs. The first time will be really quite not that nice, but then you'll get used to it, and you go in for a second and a third, and that is the way in which they used to heal the headaches when they were young boys. And Fanoti got taught that by his grandfather, and so that's just some wisdom from the land that used to look after them and heal them here, because they didn't have access to Panados and any kind of medication that you have to heal a headache. So there's many things, from the elephant dung to the trees, that will teach us about the way in which we can become more connected to the land and more healthy in ourselves. With that, let's carry on going down a cheetah cut line. We're hoping to find a cheetah, myself and Bryan, but we're also hoping to see a pangolin. And I know these things are both very difficult things to say, so I can't really just mention them. But you know what, it is Bryan's birthday, and we're just going to put all the positivity in the air to see the greatest things on his birthday. So, Bryan, let's hope we get to see a cheetah or a pangolin. I'm sure your thumb would love to see that too.
Yep.
All right. It's been fascinating spending time with Fanoti, who is a tracker for the Djuma Reserve, and just learning his ways and understanding how he used to live in this environment. I used to know him when I was at the reserve just to the south here, and he was a very good friend of mine that I used to play soccer with, and he used to teach me some of those things. And it's great to be back with these people, because they're such kind, and just, one of the main things that he said to me is that we need to be more giving, and we need to share information and share all of this. So he's so happy to share it with me, and therefore I'm just as happy to share it with the rest of the world. With that, let's go and see what James is up to.
The next time Sam Chevalier has a headache, I'm going to ask him to inhale elephant dung smoke and see if it makes it worse or better. I am willing to bet quite a lot of money, and I don't have a lot of money, on the fact that Sam Chevalier's headache...
That's good.
Is that good?
Yeah.
On Sam Chevalier's headache becoming substantially worse as a result of inhaling the noxious fumes of elephant dung. This leopard is deeply satisfied with his meal. Now you can hear him breathing. we're only sitting about 5 meters from him now. That's about 15 feet. And a lovely one, of course, we're looking at him with such a fat belly and wondering, you know, how long can a meal like this last him? Natasha, you're saying, when is he going to eat again? Well, I mean, I think that he will probably go up into that tree and finish off that kudu within the next 24 hours, certainly, possibly the next 12 hours. Then, if something comes along and it's easy for him to kill, then he'll kill it and stash it. But he could go easily, say, a week without eating. I would imagine that he will look to eat again actively in about 3 or 4 days. So that would be my guess. That's normally what happens. But, like I say, it is entirely possible that he would kill something here and stash it up in a tree. Leopards do keep pantries, if you like. So if they can kill, they will, even if they've got plenty to eat, and they'll then stash their kills in a tree. I mean, that color also, I don't know what your color looks like compared with what we're looking at, but the camera that the color that this camera is getting is fantastic. Now we're also interested, of course, in the menu that a leopard might choose. And Deborah, you're interested as to whether they might sort of choose to eat one species over another. So were you to put, say, an impala, a kudu, and a warthog next to each other, which one would he choose? Taste-wise, I don't know. I mean, I know that Tingana does like to eat warthogs, but maybe that's because he's just figured out how to kill them more easily than some of the other animals have. We know that predators do specialize in certain things, but I think that's got more to do with the ease with which they can be killed rather than the taste. Remember that they will eat the most rotting foul flesh. I mean, that kudu is not fresh anymore and is starting to smell like the bowels of hell. And so I'm not sure that the taste makes a huge difference. I think what does make a difference and what might sort of move things in favor of the warthog that you had provided for Tingana would be the amount of fat. And of course, fat is a limiting macronutrient for many of the predators out here. They need to eat fat, and very few of their prey species actually have fat. And so what they will do quite often is, something like a warthog has a lot more fat in it than an impala or a kudu. And so maybe he would choose to eat a warthog. It's an interesting question, that. Thank you, Deborah. Just complete peace now. The mid-morning lull is starting to sort of seep into the atmosphere. The chin spot batis, when that starts to call, then we know that the mid-morning lull is here and the great sort of expectation of the dawn is over. That's not a bad thing at all. It just means that the atmosphere is so very different. There you can hear all the birds calling now. I don't think we'll sit with him for much longer. I think he's probably going to do not very much more than he's doing at the moment. Just appreciate for a second the detail that you can get out of this special camera that we've got on him. The pictures we get are normally pretty sharp, but the detail on his coat with this camera, I think, is just stunning. There's his injury. Yeah, there's his injury. Gen B, you were wondering about it. That is the injury on his back leg there. And it's fine. It's healing. It's healed. It was looking a bit raw yesterday. And I'm sure it will look raw maybe for a few more days. But the fact that he killed that kudu, who is at least his own weight, indicates that he's really not doing too badly at all, and that the pain of the injury is not hampering his ability to survive out here. So we'll get one good look at his face there, and then I think we'll ease our way out of here. What we'll do before we leave completely, though, is just see if we can't go past the kill and see if there isn't a hyena lurking around here. And we're just having a confirmation from Ellen Fowler about Safari, who is the mother of Karula, who is apparently 18 years old, and that's the leopard I was talking about earlier. She wasn't, I don't know why she hasn't been recorded on the Panthera database, but certainly I've heard that she lived to 18, and it's entirely possible that she did around here. So 18, but that's very old for a female leopard. So although Karula is now 12, it would be more likely that she'd lived to sort of around 15 or so. But, you know, her mother was long-lived. She might have another 6 years in her. Alrighty, let's get out of here, David. Are you happy to get out of here?
Yeah.
I'll try, I don't want to make too much noise around here. I've got to tell you, the atmosphere of peace is just wonderful. So let's try and just have a look if there aren't some hyenas underneath the jackalberry tree where that kudu is hanging. And if there are, that'll be quite fun. There are definitely some elephants moving in the bushes around here as well. So Tingana, while he looks like he's asleep, he's certainly going to be relatively aware as to what's going on. All right, let's head across to Sam while we get out of here, get an update from him, and I'll see you once we're out.
Two female waterbuck that you are seeing on your screen right now. Beautiful animals that I haven't seen for quite some time now, 3 or 4 days. You'll often find the waterbuck close to water. There's a watering hole not far away from here. And look at them with their ears out, listening to any other predators that might be close by, or the alarm call of any bird that could be in the area. And you can see that in the nice open area, and just next to the waterbuck is a wildebeest, which is a male wildebeest, which is holding his territory and waiting for the females to come into his area. There he is. Hello, Mr. Wildebeest. It's a big male wilde. The wild beast. There he is, just behind the thicket there. As we'll know, it's just coming out of the night. These open areas, the waterbuck, the impala, and the many, many different other mammals that are on this land will try and come to these areas because it's the most safe that they can be out here in terms of the number of eyes, the number of ears to listen to any predators that might be coming in from any angle. So we've just come out into this open area, and we've seen these two beautiful waterbuck and the wildebeest. And if we're very lucky in the future, hopefully we'll be able to see a wildebeest displaying some sort of dominance on that land. You're sometimes seeing them playing inside their dust to show everyone that that is its land. Look at this, shaking off all the flies. There are so many flies this morning. And waterbuck like to live in social groups, so you'll often find the females and the youngsters of the waterbuck together in their family groups, moving around, and you'll see the males with the most magnificent horns, long horns that come off. They'll sometimes be on their own, and they'll come into the groups when they need to mate and do all the little things that they need to do in the groups. hopefully we'll be able to see a big male waterbuck as we go towards the watering holes now. But it was a fantastic sighting of the two waterbuck and the wildebeest, which are in this open area. Have a look at the open area around us here. This is the best opportunity to see animals like the cheetah. The cheetah loves the open area. That's exactly why we came in this area, because I want to find a cheetah on Bryan's 30th birthday. Because I'm only 25, so I've still got 5 years to go before I come to that age. How does it feel to be 30, Bryan?
I'll tell you later. So far, so good.
So far, so good from Bryan. Do you know what? I think we'll make his day if we find a cheetah or a pangolin. So let's look out. Keep on a lookout, everyone. Just got a question from Hannah. I think it was Hannah. Please confirm if it was Hannah Rebecca. But the question was, Canada Keith was the name, and the question was, what are the type of traditions that we do on a 30th birthday? Well, not on a 30th birthday, on a birthday in the bush. Now, I'm not actually quite sure. All I know is that we often get water thrown on us in camp if it's your birthday. I don't know if this is a myth. Is this true, Bryan?
That's true. I'm expecting it later.
So Bryan might very well have a bucket of water thrown over his head today. So we might just see a sad Bryan. To be honest, I don't think he'll be sad. A nice little bit of water will just cheer you up, won't it?
Yeah.
Wake you up. You might feel a little bit soppy. That's okay. But we were chatting about the dung a little bit earlier. And you know, Earth Day is coming up soon. And Earth Day will be a special day as we think about our planet and all the beautiful. It is on Friday the 22nd of April, and it's a special day for us to think about the Earth and all of its beautiful animals and plants. And myself, Rebecca, and Bryan are actually growing a garden together. We're having a slight competition to see who can grow the most grass and that sort of thing to get to the level of the step. So we're trying to get to the step. We're actually growing a garden there, and we need to get compost. So elephant's dung actually provides very, very nutritious, well, a good component for the soil. So we're actually collecting as much elephant dung as not as much as we can, because there's loads in the bush. If we did all of that, then we would just have a garden of elephant dung, which wouldn't be very nice. But we're very excited to grow a little garden in our home. Hopefully, once it's grown. So, I love gardening. Gardening is one of my favorite things. If you have a look on Sustainable Brothers on YouTube, you'll see my brother and I planted a number of gardens in Cape Town, and it's a big, big passion and hobby of ours. But what's really important is that we also plant indigenous plants to an area that help the local species of birds come back. Because often in areas we'll plant things that aren't that indigenous or local to the area, and that'll sometimes kill off all the other types of plants and birds that used to be local in the area. So, if you feel like, #SafariLive, take a picture of an indigenous plant this Friday that you've planted wherever you are in the world. That will help a bird find a nest somewhere there. We would love to do something and give something back to this beautiful planet that provides us so much every single day. From the oxygen we breathe to the food we eat. Let's do something special for the earth this Friday. And I'd love to know your types of indigenous plants to your regions. Mr. James Hendry is sitting with a buffalo. Let's go and see how he's doing with that buffalo soldier.
I cannot believe how close these buffalo are letting us get to them. I know we see them a lot, we see them often, and these chaps are just ignoring us, going about their day, and it's a wonderful privilege, I've got to tell you. So let's just stop here. I mean, we're now probably 5 feet from this buffalo bull. That is not usual. They normally don't let us get anything like this close. Again, just sort of continues the great peace of this morning. Sorry about that. I was just taking a quick low-level shot, everybody. Let me move a little forward, Dave. You might get a better shot of, rather than the back end of that one. That is so cool. Sorry, Rebecca, will you go again with Cheryl's question, please? You're interested in why the water is pumped in. Well, Cheryl, this particular water isn't, but it is captured, you're correct, by the dam wall that is to the sort of eastern side of where we're sitting, so basically directly in front of the buffalo's head. Now, you quite correctly say, or want to know, do we do that? Sorry, let me get my head out of the way. Do we do that because of drought? And yes, we do. The other reason, of course, is that the more water you have, often the more sort of animals you get. And so there has been this perception around here that, you know, all the private landowners do provide artificial water for animals to come and drink. And it is a controversial practice these days, because we know what it does is that it attracts things like these buffalo and like elephants and zebra and impala. But the closer the water is together, the more it excludes other animals, perhaps, like sable and roan and sesame and hartebeest, which prefer to be a bit further away from water. And so, yes, so while it does advantage some animals, and it is done not so much for drought, but just generally because this is a dry area, and therefore the more water you have, the more likely you are to have one or two animals lurking about the place. It does have its disadvantages. This is awesome. It's fantastic. I've never been this close to a buffalo lying in a pan like this. They don't normally let us get anything like this close. His tongue is a remarkable prober of his nostrils there, isn't it, David?
Very odd.
Very odd. And he's breathing quite heavily. He's just trying to see if he can smell us a little bit and if we're going to be a threat to him. Oh, look, there's a terrapin coming up behind him. I don't know if you saw that. Just as we zoomed in there, there was a terrapin coming up behind him. And a terrapin is like an aquatic oxpecker. It will lie in the water around him, swim around him, and eat off the ectoparasites and the ticks. And Joe, of course, one of the great joys of living out here is the different smells of nature that we have. And around here right now, Joe, it smells a little bit like a dairy, so buffalo smell like a domestic cow, almost exactly the same. There is a sort of slight taint in the air from this dirty water. It's not unpleasant at all, but it does smell like sort of muddy water. No fishy smell at all. There, Dave, you can see if you go to the back of him, there's a terrapin that keeps popping its head up. You see it there? Yeah, just if you, there he is. You see him there? It's just on the left-hand side. Just keep it there. He's going round the back. There's another one coming now towards the bottom. There we go. See? Like a little aquatic oxpecker. And Joe, then there is a bit of sort of dust in the air, but it's largely just the smell of the dairy and the buffalo. Now, while you look at that, I'm just going to identify a bird, which I think is going to be quite interesting for some of you who are keeping bird lists. That's very interesting. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, there's the wood sandpiper, which is unusual in this area, has come here. We had one at Buffelshoek Dam at one stage early in the season, and there now seems to be one here. There was one at 3 in a row pan on Cheetah Plains the other day, and I would have thought it was time for them to leave. Dave, just on the edge of right on the furthest possible edge you got in there. Wood sandpiper. Everybody, this isn't the longest lens we possess, but I think that's probably a decent picture, and I will show you a picture of him in the book just to confirm. And all around, I'm sure you can hear the sound of these buffalo going. And that's not just them sighing out, it is in fact them smelling the air and seeing if there isn't a threat around the place. They've clearly decided that we are not a threat because we are very close to them indeed. Just trying to find the picture of the wood sandpiper. I'm not convinced of the pictures in my book of the wood sandpiper. So what I'm going to do is take out the app on my phone. I suspect quite strongly that wood sandpiper is a juvenile, and that's why it's still around here. Because I think the adults will all be gone by now. James, Richard, the heat is starting to build very slowly now, and you've heard that the blood vessels within a buffalo's horns can be used for cooling down. And is that true or not? I have to confess that I heard that. I wouldn't have remembered it, but for you having mentioned it, and I think I heard it many years ago. Do I think it's true? Yes, I think it probably is. Although, buffalo don't really occur in the hottest areas that we get out here. So they don't occur in desert areas, but that's probably more because they need water rather than because of the heat. But I'm pretty sure that it would be accurate that any blood vessel close to the surface of the skin and away from the heat of the body would aid in getting rid of heat. So yes, I would think it is probably entirely possible, James. Let me just try and find this sandpiper quickly. Now, Dina, you say that is number 38 on your bird list. I'm just quickly going to make sure that I am not telling you a beastly lie. That it isn't a green sandpiper. He's just very, very spotted on the back, which would indicate a wood sandpiper, but quite possibly a juvenile bird. Yes, photographs rather than paintings of the wood sandpiper are exactly like that one. So we'll go with wood sandpiper. Other bird species that we have here are the blacksmith lapwing, going ding, ding, dink. They like to live around the water. This is more activity than I've seen at Treehouse Dam for some time. And I guarantee you that leopard is going to pop down here at some stage during the day to have a drink. So were you to spend an extended period sitting under a tree here, having a picnic, I think it would be very, very enjoyable indeed. All right, we're going to sit here for a few more minutes, and while we do that and see what comes to drink, head across to Sam and get an update on the soil.
So we've started the conversation about Earth Day that will be happening on Friday, the 22nd, and I thought it would be very relevant to talk about soil, talk about the influence of soil and what we can do to try and better ourselves in our environments and do something a little bit more for the Earth. And so if you can see here, you can see two different soil types, if you can see. And what we can often see here is a sandy soil, of course, with a number of rocks in it. But what I want to highlight here is when it rains, when it should have done over this last summer season, which was our rainfall season, we didn't get that much rain, it will wash some of the topsoil away and come into the waterbed. And this can be very difficult wherever you are in the world. If you take out a tree and you take all the root systems out, then you wash away all the sand and the soil. And soil is so important for an environment, for things to grow. So wherever you are, if you see that there are places where you need to put some trees in the ground, go there, put the tree in the ground, hold that soil together and keep it good. Because that'll then help the rivers flow better. It'll help all sorts of things happen. So make sure it's an indigenous plant to your area. Learn more about your indigenous plants. See how they influence the environment. What bird will come back. But Jen B also asked a fascinating question, which was, what are we going to do with our water? And how are we going to look after our gardens when the winter drought hits us? Well, Jen, we've already started thinking about this. And Rebecca has already started putting buckets in her shower. So she goes to her shower, puts buckets down, showers and fills up with water, and she goes into her garden and she pours that into her garden. So there's ways and measures that we can do in camp to look after the amount of water that we might be wasting and use it in systems that need it. So that's sustainability for me, is how we can close loops, how we can get water that's being wasted here and use it in a system that really, really needs it over here. Also, if things get a little bit difficult, we can always come and be an elephant out here. So you know what elephants do? We're in an area that used to be river drainage. So I've never seen it like when it is with water, but what ellies come and do is they come and put their trunk in the soil and they'll dig. I don't know if I'm being a good elephant, but that's what an ellie will do until it finds water. So there's different methods that you can do in order to find water in an environment. And Fanoti, the tracker, was teaching me how we can actually find water by actually picking up and finding certain roots under plants and squeezing the roots and actually getting water out. That, and even going behind a marula tree. A marula tree, if we break off the bark and we get to the cambium layer, we can strip the cambium layer off and we can squash it to get all the juices out. So that's what the local indigenous people used to do to find water in terms of drought. But it's a very important thing that we need to start considering is how are we using our water, and how can we start closing loops and helping our environment instead of wasting, because sometimes we can be quite wasteful. And on that note, you know, what is your way in which you recycle your organic waste? Because that's another way that you can look after your garden. What we're doing at camp now is we're trying to get all the coffee grains, we're trying to get all the different type of organic waste from potato peels, and we're putting it in one bucket. And over time that'll compost and become good nutrients for the soil, and you put that in the soil and that will help your plant grow better. So it's all about learning about your plant, learning about the needs of the plant and seeing what you can do to better its chance of survival out in the environment. So Earth Day is on Friday. Let's see what you can do. When you've done something, #Safari Live, or send us an email at wildearth.tv. Questions at wildearth.tv. We would love to know what you've done out there. But now we are driving, no such word as driving through a river basin. And I've said to you, I've really wanted to find a secretive animal, and I've tried to be as secretive as possible, but it can be quite difficult sometimes when you're talking quite loudly into a camera. So this is the same drainage line that we were in earlier when we looked for the Inyala and the Kudu. But we're just further along up it. And we're going to try our best to see if we can find. My piece just fell out. I'm just going to find my piece for 1 second. What? Just put it in. Well, let's link to James and see what James is doing while I try and figure out what is going on with my car. What happened to it? Was that?
Well, that was a speedy link, everybody. I'm not sure what happened to poor old Gamgee over there. Seems to have lost his earpiece. We left the buffalo, mainly because we enjoyed the buffalo very much, but the quite astonishing number of flies that threatened to climb into every orifice of our faces, basically offended David and I, and so we left. And we were looking, hopefully, for some tracks of Karula and youngsters, but nothing yet. And I know my patience is going to eventually pay off. I've driven up and down this road, must be 150 times in the last few weeks, just hoping for the same view that you got live with Brent the other day when he drove down this road, and there, in the middle of the road, was Karula with her little babies. Of course, the opportunity to see lion cubs is also coming, given that so many, I think at least one of the Styx females has given birth, and I think at least 2 of the Nkuhuma pride are pregnant. So the Styx I haven't seen for many, many months. In fact, I think I probably only saw them 4 times, almost at the beginning of my sojourn as a presenter for WildEarth. And they just spend a lot more of their time to the south. But of course, our time on Cheetah Plains and its proximity to the Mala Mala boundary certainly give us a greater chance of spending a bit of time with the Styx prides and their little babies soon. I'm going to drive a little bit faster in order to discourage the flies from following us. Hold on. David, have we lost them?
Almost.
We do seem to have lost some of them, but they will follow us. You've got to keep up this pace for a little while. Over a bump. Oh, yeah, one of them caught up with us as we went over that bump. Quickly round the corner here. They're going to cut the corner, watch. They did, didn't they? They cut the corner and they caught up with us. There we go. Surely they can't keep up with us now. There we go. And Susie R, you're asking if the oxpeckers have left. Susie R, the oxpeckers don't have anywhere to go, I'm afraid. They stay right here. And so no, they haven't left, they're around. Interesting though, we didn't see any on those buffalo, so I'm not sure where they are today or why those buffalo are distasteful to them. But no, the oxpeckers are around. They don't go anywhere. They can be slightly nomadic, and that's simply because they do need to move around wherever there is food, and as we know, their food occurs in large numbers on the herbivores of the area. So, because we have concentrated or sedentary areas, sorry about the sound everyone, I'm not sure why it's crackling, because we do have sedentary populations of herbivores here, so it is that the oxpeckers will stay static. In areas where they migrate, where the herbivores migrate, you will find the oxpeckers moving with them. The flies have caught up with us, haven't they, David? Beastly things.
Yes, they're back.
Beastly, beastly flies. Oh well, we'll put up with them. They don't seem to be affected vaguely by the drought, by rain, apocalypse, Holocaust, nuclear. They don't seem to mind any kind of toxin in the air. Now, I saw some lovely butterflies as I was driving along here 2 days ago, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to see some of them. It does look like, however, that a large number of elephants has come through this area and squashed all of the grass. And that is going to make it difficult for the butterflies. And we're not going to have them for much longer, you know. It's not too long from now that they're going to give up and sort of will die, I guess, is the, not to put too fine a point on it. The butterflies will die as the water in the soil disappears. There is a beautiful white thing. I'm not sure what he is. He's one of the whites. Unsurprisingly, they're called the whites. And then, Dave, we've got an African joker not sitting still. Don't try and film him. You'll make everyone sick, and yourself. Let me just back up a bit. Because this, I think it's brown-veined white, is sitting very nicely still there. Can you see him now, Dave?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, that is a brown-veined white. That is a wild guess, everyone. It might well not be. Many, many different butterflies that we get here. And also, Dave, if you go to the right, slightly to the right, yeah, and back in there, just zoom straight in there, and to the left a little, there was a bee or a wasp. It's actually closer to us now. You sort of tilt down. There. I do often feel quite sorry for the cameraman, because we kind of assume that because we can see it and we just point like this, then they should be able to move the camera, focus, zoom in, do all the things that our eyes do automatically. And tracking a bee as it flies from flower to flower is one of those extremely unreasonable things that we expect the cameraman to be able to perform. Bad luck, David. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
That's okay. So we'll just keep an eye out on the side of the road here. Ooh. Sit still, sweet butterfly. There, behind a bushel, it has gone. It is a common diadem male. And I don't know if you're going to be able to pick this up, but every so often, what looks like a totally black and white butterfly has these flashes of blue. Now, I don't know where those flashes come from, unless it is from sort of some iridescence in the sun. No blue there at all, is there, Dave? But if you see it, I tell you, if you see it fly past, it's like a starling blue that flashes. You can see a little bit there under the left hind wing spot. Maybe, if you've got a really good screen, which most of us don't. Fantastic. So that's the male common diadem. Brown-veined white we think we had. And Samuel apparently is on the same theme. He has some more butterflies to show you.
These butterflies are so beautiful. I've never seen them before. I have absolutely no idea what butterflies they are. But if you can, please screenshot it and send it #SafariLive, and then I can research it later and find out what it is. If you guys know what it is, please can you send it an answer? I'd love to know what type of butterfly that is. But look at the colors on that butterfly. I know people wanted to see the color orange and red. This has a very significant color, red and orange on top, and you can see the black stripes in the middle of it. Wow, and look at the black dot. You can see some white dots through the top part of it and the bottom part of it. we were sitting last night with a caterpillar that was sitting in a tree or crawling in the tree, and I was just imagining how caterpillars turn into butterflies and how that whole process works. It's such a transformation. Incredible how the little things in the natural world work and how they can move from one state to a complete other. Some beautiful butterflies for our morning. So happy birthday to Bryan. We'll find out what butterfly you are and we'll send that online and say what it was. It's amazing to be introduced to all these different colors. Deborah Armchair chat to know what the different colors were in the soil type that we were sitting in the river basin. There's actually 2 different soil types, and you'll find the first one will be different in terms of its sediment. So the one below will be a lot more coarse. That ground and the stones inside of it will be a lot more coarse and a lot more dry than the one above. So there are actually 2 different soil types in the riverbed there. James has more butterflies. Let's go and see how our friend from Joburg, James, has the butterflies.
I'm very interested in Sam's link there. We're looking at a yellow pansy at the moment. Oh, no, we're not. That's something entirely different. I don't even see where you're looking, David. That is very interesting. I've got no idea what that is. Let's give it a name. It's called a broad-based white-brown. There we go. I don't know what that is, but we were with some yellow there, the yellow pansies. Thank you, David. Well done. Beautiful yellow pansies. Now, I'm not sure if Samuel was casting aspersions on my origins, given that I come from Johannesburg. Of course, it is very easy to cast aspersions on somebody who comes from Cape Town. Someone who is from Cape Town, of course, has a brain that works at about 30% the speed of someone who comes from Johannesburg. They speak much more slowly. The world seems to be a constant place of wonderment to them, which I suppose is a good thing. But we in Johannesburg, well, you know, I don't live there anymore, but, you know, we're very protective over ourselves. Because we don't have the mountain and the sea like the Cape Townians do. It's why they don't do any work, of course. All right, there it is, Dave. There. You see this citrus swallowtail? What we need is some liquid nitrogen to spray on him quickly. He's right underneath the door. Oi! Go on. Go where we can see you. There we go. No. I might try and catch him. No, I won't try and catch him. That was a citrus swallowtail, everybody, that we didn't manage to see, I'm afraid. That is no slight on David's camera work, though, impossible to catch. And then there's an orange and white and black one there. Can you see that one, Dave?
I think so.
Now, that is either a monarch or it is a female common diadem, and it is, in fact, I think, a female common diadem. The only reason I say that is because there are 5 spots on the back. It's a monarch. It's a typical African monarch butterfly, and although very common, I think they're very beautiful, and they're eating these Waltheria flowers. Well, they're sticking their proboscises into the middle of the Waltheria. Oh, there's a moth on the same plant there. Lot of lepidopterids. All right, let's move on. I know we could probably sit here for ages trying to find more and more butterflies, but I think what would eventually occur is that you'd all get seasick as we moved the camera from side to side in an attempt to to catch the butterflies that are moving so much faster than a Cape Townian's brain. David and I, of course, are both from Johannesburg.
Oh, yeah.
Brent Smith is definitely from somewhere close to Johannesburg. Let's go back across to Sam. I'm not sure what he's looking at, but whatever he's looking at, he will be looking at it with considered slowness.
Buffalo dung, everyone. Have a look at the buffalo dung. Doesn't smell very nice, but I'm just going to try and get a little closer to it. Just to show you it, you can quite clearly see that it's buffalo dung by the kind of runniness of it. And there, oof, it really does stink. But I just thought I would tell you something really interesting about buffalo dung that I learned yesterday from a good friend. And it's all about how they used to use it as cement. The Shangaan people used to use buffalo dung as cement, and I'm quite sure they still do. And what they do is they collect it and they take it to their floors and they put it on the floor and they squash it down onto the tiles on the floor, or not the tiles, just the surface, and it acts as a cement. So the house actually becomes very, very stinky, of course, over the first few days while they have the buffalo dung all over the floor. But over a week or so, they've got good cement, and it almost makes the floor very stable and solid, and it's a good foundation. So it's incredible to see how local indigenous people would be using elements and things from the bush to make their life a little bit better in their homes. Fascinating stuff. But I also wanted to say the reason why I said James, James from Joburg, is that James has been talking a lot about me being from Cape Town, and that I'm rather slow at times. And I know I can be rather slow in terms of the way in which I talk. It's a very different way in which we speak down in the Cape, where the winds blow and the swell from the sea comes in. But as I said, I feel like we articulate things a little better than some of the Joburg people. You can't really hear what they're saying sometimes. Although James, I must admit, has very, very good English language. Very, very good English language that I'm trying to learn from, because I keep saying words like beautiful and wow. So I'm going to try my very best to grow out of that and learn a few more extravagant words to talk about this magnificent bushveld. So, not that I actually grew up in Joburg for 4 years. So I was born in Johannesburg rather, and then I left for Cape Town. And I never looked back. But it's quite a funny joke in camp. He thinks he's quite funny telling me that I'm a slow person from Cape Town. Disagree? Yeah. It's rather that I'm chilled, I'm relaxed. I don't take things too seriously. Wow, have a look at this plant. Never seen that before. It's red. I just said wow again. Oh well, it's going to take some time. But have a look at that red plant. I'm not sure what it is. If you are interested in what this plant is, please can you screenshot it and send it to Safari Live, and we'll find out what it is. I'll write it in my book, and we can learn a little bit more about this bushveld. But if you know what it is, please can you send us a tweet, #Safari Live, and let us know what that beautiful red bush is. Well, not bush, flower. Lucy from Indiana would like to see a zebra. I've had 3 requests over the past 2 days to see if we can find a zebra. Lucy, I'm going to do my very best to find a zebra. We've got to keep our eyes peeled for the white and black stripes that are on the zebra, the dazzle. A group of zebra is called a dazzle of zebra. So let's get our eyes on a dazzle of zebra. But about to enter another watering hole, just like we did at Buffalo's Hook, Buffalo Corner. We are now coming to another watering hole. There could be hippo, there could be elephants, there could be buffalo. That's what we got, everyone. We've got a buffalo. We've got 2 buffaloes. Oh, very exciting. Look at them sitting there. We've got a blacksmith plover. We've got a starling on the side. Let's have a look at all the different creatures that are enjoying the water of the morning. If we have a look at that blacksmith plover just to the right. Oh, okay, so you were just here with James, so you've seen the buffaloes, but let's take a quick scan and see if we can put something new to our bird list. I know the bird list has been going slowly, but that's the way I like it, because we can slowly but surely learn more and more about the different birds that are here, so we don't overwhelm ourselves with all the knowledge on the amount of species that we have out here. So what can we see? On the right there of our screen, we can see a blacksmith plover, and what we know about this bird is that you'll often find it by the water, and when it makes a noise, it sounds like a blacksmith hitting its iron. Ka-ding, ka-ding, ka-ding. I don't know if that was a good sound that I made in terms of the impression of it, but let's hope it will make a sound, and then I'll be quiet, and we'll listen to this beautiful blacksmith plover making its sound. And what else do we have out here? We've got another blacksmith plover, so we've got 2 of them. We've got a, let's see, there was something else. I thought I saw a sandpiper. There it is. There's a sandpiper on the other side of the watering hole. You pick it up, there it is. Just see it in the distance. And we get a number of different sandpipers here. We get the common sandpiper, the green sandpiper, and the wood sandpiper. And I find it very difficult to distinguish between the green and the wood sandpiper, as they're very similar. And from this distance, it's difficult to tell. But I would, from this distance, I would say it's a wood sandpiper, because I can see that slight yellowish on the bottom of it. It looks like a wood sandpiper. I'm going to go with the wood sandpiper. What do you guys all think? So we see a starling that's just flown out of screen. We saw a blacksmith plover, and we had a good visual of what we think is a wood sandpiper. And what do we often get with the buffaloes? We often get oxpeckers, the red-billed oxpecker. And I've told Bryan that I would love to see a yellow-billed oxpecker. Whoa! Oh, it was a dove. Thought it was something else. So let's go and see what James is up to. We're going to get across this watering hole and see what other birds we can find.
So we're quite lucky here, because I've just found some female leopard tracks, and I'm pretty sure they're shadows. Now, I don't see any little ones with her, but Brent was tracking her around here yesterday inside Arethusa. So, I mean, we're not too far from our western boundary. The tracks go down here, and then they head off through the bush here. And as we know, Shadow does like a termite mound. She's not on that one. So what we're going to do, instead of going up that way, we're going to turn and go down back the way we came, past those butterflies, and just have another sort of slightly more fastidious look into the bush and see if she isn't perhaps lurking there with a kill in a tree. A kill that she might want to bring her babies back to. Hello Megan, a nice one from you about lion cubs and when we view them and why we view them at 2 months and that sort of thing. And would we do the same with lion cubs? Would we only view them at 2 months old? Megan, I'd be more than happy to view lion cubs as soon as the mother introduced them to the pride. So, I mean, it is possible to view them as she moves the den. She will pick them up in her mouth and move them to a different hidey hole, and sometimes we do see that, but we then wouldn't actively go and track them. But once they've been introduced to the pride and they're moving with the pride, which is at about 6 weeks, then I'd be happy to view them. I'd be happy to view a leopard cub earlier than 2 months as well. Let's just have a look here. There's a warthog. Hello, warty. Look. So cool. He's close by. A young boar. And he's just deciding whether we're a threat or not. And now he's decided that we aren't. This is brilliant. Look at the way he's cropping the grass there. And with any luck, we'll see his cartilaginous snout. I'm very glad I don't have a cartilaginous snout. Digging and pulling out the rhizomes and corms and nutritious bits of underground plant. And I know you can't hear this, but I can hear the breaking of the grass as he bites and tears. It's a lovely sound of life, that. He looks very surprised by us. Well, we're surprised by you, old chap. Eating with his mouth open. This is wonderful. So unusual that they'll stand like that for any length of time at all. It's not a boar at all, it's a young sow. That is very poor of me not to realize. How very cool. That's a great, great warthog sighting. Of course, he doesn't want to be too close to the vicinity of Shadow the leopard. Megan, back to your question. If I had my own farm and I had my own game reserve and I could set the rules myself, excuse me. Gosh, that must have been very unpleasant to listen to. Sorry about that. Then I would probably view leopard cubs from a little bit earlier, but only in certain circumstances. So the reason it's 2 months here is because we know then that those leopards can climb trees and that there won't be any kind of ill effect of us going to see them. If, say, I had some guests on the vehicle and this was my own area and there was a leopardess on the ground in front of us and she had 3-4 week old cubs, would I turn around and drive away? No, I absolutely wouldn't. Would I then try and track them? No, I wouldn't do that either. So it very much depends on the situation, and making a blanket rule in an area where so many different people use different pieces of land, now then making a blanket rule is necessary and it's effective, and so that's why we only view them at 2 months. But there are certainly situations in which you can view leopards, cubs and lion cubs without affecting their behavior, and certainly if it's only one vehicle. We don't have those situations here because there are lots of people around trying to look at the animals, so that's why we do it at 2 months only. 2 months is a good safe option, probably both for lions and leopards. And Sarah, I don't know that anyone has seen the Styx cubs. You were wondering if anyone has seen them and if any of the others have given birth. I don't know. I think they spent a little bit of time on Arethusa a while back, but then they went away again. So I'm not sure if anyone's actually seen those cubs. Certainly not from Arethusa or from Djuma at this stage, as far as I'm aware. Well, there she is. She turned around and came back along this road. So she popped out over there and she came back. Let's just follow this to its logical conclusion. We are not too far from the edge of the reserve, so let's just quickly have a look around. See, what could happen is in exactly the same way as when we saw Karula's cubs. I'm assuming this is Shadow because she comes from Arethusa. if she has killed something here, it's possible that she will just stash the kill, and then kind of come back to it, with or without the cubs. So let's just have a look. It might, or this could also be Karoo.
The single-horned impala is departing from our vision. I haven't seen this impala before, and I can imagine how difficult life must be for an impala when it only has one horn. You can imagine impala form big bachelor herds where they get together and the males will rut and they will fight against each other to display dominance and to gain the strength that they need in order to look after the females. So you can imagine, as we sit here with the impala that only has one horn, how difficult. Oh, have a look how he's rubbing. Looks like he's rubbing scent. They have scent glands right beneath their eyes there. Might have been rubbing some scent. But you can imagine how difficult it's going to be for this impala when it only has one horn during the rutting season. And it makes it difficult for all types of animals that have any kind of disability out here when it comes to the seasons where they need to display dominance. A lot of the time, animals that are having difficulty will get taken out by the predators first. So this impala realizes that it's in a position where it really needs to take care of itself in order to survive in this environment. But James is busy looking for a leopard, and leopard loves to eat impala. So that impala should take care of where it is, what it's doing, otherwise it might just be taken out by the leopard that James is busy tracking at the moment. So we're going to head down towards quarantine, where we might be able to find some animals. We weren't able to find the kudu and the inyala that I would love to have sat down and spoken a little bit more as I wrote my empathy map over here and got to know a little bit more about my kudu. So there'll be a time where we can sit down with a kudu and go through all the information that I learned about a kudu. That's the way in which I'm slowly but surely learning the different species out here in the bush, and to get to know them a little bit better by writing down and drawing them and seeing their relationship to the greater whole of this ecosystem. That's something that really drives my thirst for knowledge in the bush, is to understanding each individual's purpose and its self-actualization, its self-realization of itself, its purpose in the bush here. I find it fascinating. Sometimes I do think, like, how do some animals like bees know themselves so well and do exactly what they need to do in order to allow the system to be maintained? How do they look after the queen bee that needs to be looked after? How do they know to build hexagonal shapes? Bees build hexagon shapes, which is the strongest shape that you can build in the natural world. It comes from sacred geometry and is the strongest shape that you can then build modularly. Modularly means to build on top of each other, and it can build in any direction. And it's just incredible when you stop to look at the way in which nature builds its different buildings, and, well, not buildings, it's nests. But with that, we'll talk more about how the natural world designs its different things while getting to know the animals of the beautiful Djuma, Cheetah Plains, and Arathusa. It's been a fascinating morning once again, learned a whole bunch, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow morning where we can talk a little bit more about the antelopes that are here. It's been a fascinating drive with Bryan and his thumb. He's 30, as you can see. We saw more than 30 elephants. We saw 45 or 46 to be exact. We tried to find a pangolin for him. I did my very best. I looked everywhere. As you know, finding a pangolin isn't very easy, and I've actually never seen one in my life. But it was Bryan's birthday, and I thought I'd better try my best. With that, have a beautiful day, and we'll see you later.
Let's do this.
Yeah. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bryan. Happy birthday to you. There we go. Hip hip hooray. 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 Whoosh. Bryan's 30, everyone. And Bryan gave a thumbs up to our song. How very kind of him to extend himself to giving us a thumbs up. Seems like, you know, when you're 30 years old, you should have about a week off, I feel. It's a major milestone. Not quite as major as the milestone I will have to, with any luck, achieve at the end of the year. I will be heading into my 5th decade. It's quite old, Dave, isn't it?
It is.
It is quite old. You look at me and you think, what an old man, don't you?
Not quite.
Yeah. Oh well. Time waits for no man and assorted cliches. That makes me well older than all the other presenters. JT, on the topic of age, a tenuous link, you want to know how do you age a kudu? Well, with a male it's quite easy. They have half a twist in their horns every year. So for each full twist in the horns you've got a year. So, you know, one of those males we looked at today looked at about 6 years old, and they don't, after that they stop sort of getting too much longer. So yeah, after they're 7 or 8 years old, they often die, but B, if they don't die, then they are quite difficult to age from there. Otherwise, it's experience and skin condition, size. Same with females. You know, they get to adult size at about 3 years, and after that, it becomes quite difficult to age most of the herbivores. Now, don't forget about Earth Day. I know Sam's told you all about Earth Day, which comes on Friday, and we'd very much like you to plant something indigenous wherever you happen to be in the world. We're not going to plant anything out here, but we are going to do some form of alien vegetation clearing. We found 1 or 2 areas that can be cleared of some alien vegetation, so we'll take you along that journey on Friday with us. I think those tracks of shadow cross back towards her cubs. They certainly seem to be heading back towards the west. And so I'm sure she's gone back towards them. Whether or not she killed something last night and has stashed it around here, I don't know, but we'll come back into the area this afternoon and have a look and see. So that's pretty much going to be it from us for the rest of the day, I'm afraid. Well, I'm not afraid. You've probably had enough of staring at us. Stare at the dam cam instead. Should be some interesting stuff as the heat builds. Thank you, David, for your efforts today. Big thank you to Rebecca and Kirsten in the final control, and to Sam, of course, and Bryan, Sam and Bryan from Cape Town. We will see you this afternoon. Thank you for all of your questions and comments. We'll see you at 3:30. Bye-bye.